I believe we're live. Hi, Walter. Walter just joined us for those who were catching me going live here. So anyhow, if anybody's out there and they want to chat, the chat's open, and feel free. And hi, Walter. Hello, Miss there, Keys and Carr and Gatvinig, and myself, Lee Jenkins. And today's chapter is organized planning. And according to this, it says the crystallization of desire into action is the sixth step towards riches. Now, somebody usually says this is their favorite chapter. Anybody want to jump in and say that, or somebody?
It's actually not. It's the one that needs the work. So that's,
yeah, I know, right?
That's all of us then.
we were just kind of talking about that before you got on the call here, Walter, and I don't think anybody wants to say it's their favorite chapter, although the information in there is actually fantastic.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
But
absolutely
personally, I'm kind of like shoot from the hip, let's go. Like, here's the idea, here's the plan right this moment, let's go. And I'll keep going until it doesn't work. And that's okay. And that he talks a lot about that. So anybody want to add to what I just said? I think maybe all of us are the same, right?
I think that's pretty much it. It was great discussing this chapter. Yeah. Let's have a good week.
I don't want people to get the wrong idea. It is a really good.
No, chapter. It is a really good chapter. It really is. It really truly is. It really.
Yeah, it's kind of like that whole thing of the SMART. You have to do a SMART goal, and I always cringe when I hear SMART goals. But it's not true for the larger goal. So you're the goal that you're ultimately trying to achieve. Well, yeah, you don't want to make it realistic and whatever, because if it's realistic, you'd know how to get it, and that's the whole point, is you want to see something big. But the intermittent steps, like, you don't know how to get to the end, but you know how to take step one. So, like, as an example, I wanna run my own $10 million company, or have my own. Okay, great. I don't know how that's going to happen, but for me, it would be, say, software. And if I was just starting out, I'd say, okay, well, what's step one? Well, I should probably learn how to run a business. So can I, investigate colleges or whatever? So that would be something that's SMART. Okay, the first step in the journey is a SMART goal. Whatever you think you can attain, whatever is your first step to least point, whatever that is, just do it. Don't stop yourself from taking that first step, but yeah, just take a step back and say, well, what is manageable? What can I do? That's what I think this chapter is all about. And it is a little bit scary when you're starting, because you haven't a clue where to start, but that's okay. Just throw down ideas, figure out which 2 or 3 things you can do right now to take that first step, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
So that's the plan, what Napoleon Hill is talking about in Think and Grow Rich. So the plan, to have a plan and go for it. So for me, it's most important the part that go for it, not the plan. Because when I hear have a plan and go for the plan, then I get a little bit nervous, because I'm not the type of human who plans, and I love to say, okay, this is what I want, so let's go. I do it. I do the first step, and the next step is gonna showing up. The next step will lead you to the next step and the next door. And I think I can interpret it like God's plan, or the plan of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
That's
more accurate, really, if you think about it, right? That's more accurate.
Yeah. I think that all of us obviously are feeling the same way, but the real big thing that I've noticed is the more faith I have in the process, the less planning I tend to do, because I understand that just by taking action, the next thing will come to me. Like, I don't know. I don't have to know how to do a certain thing. Again, it's like Lee says all the time, you don't have to know the how, you just need to know the what. And so when you know what you want, and you focus in on what you want, God will present it to you, or the universe, or whomever you call, whatever you want to call it. But for me, it's God, and God will give you the information. It will be downloaded to you, or it will come to you in some form. It just shows up. It shows up, and so I think and I can speak for myself. Before I really started taking action, I was a big planner. So a lot of times I wanted to plan out what I was going to do, and I would work that plan so hard, and oh my gosh, this is how it's going to do, and this is how it's going to work, and this is going to happen in this time, and da 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 da. But it also was, again, this is only me speaking about me, but it was also a form of an excuse for me, because as long as I'm working on the plan, I can say that I'm working, versus actually taking the action steps. And so, a lot of times I think people get caught up in the plan with the paralysis analysis.
Yeah, exactly. But you do need to take some action. You just find with each action, again, the furthest we need to plan is the next step, or next two steps, whatever is your next step. That's it. So once you take that first step, so for my example, okay, so now I found a college or whatever. I want to take a nice class or something. So now I've taken the class. Okay, well now that opens up. Okay, well now I know I need to register my company. Okay, well now I need to investigate what kind of companies do I need to register. Okay, so now step two is that. I would have never known that had I not taken step one. As soon as you take step one, now that opens up a whole new avenues. Maybe in the class, you get to know the prof. The prof knows some people that may be investors, or some people in, that's kind of how it works. As long as you're taking action, moving forward, then things will open up more and more and more and more. And you can't get to step 5 without taking steps 1 to 4. But we just need to look at the next step in front of us, the next 100 meters. When they say, I forget what example it was, but if you're driving, you want to drive to from Toronto to California or something at night. You don't know what direction you're going, but you know the next 100 meters. That's as far as your lights will shine. That's as far as you need to go. Next 100 meters, next 100 meters, and eventually you get there.
And you may hit a detour. You may hit traffic. You may hit all kinds of things that are going to screw up your plan.
In fact, you will. You
planned
most definitely will.
at a certain time, but guess what? You're 2 hours late, like Eric was earlier today.
Yep.
He got stuck on the highway for 3 hours this morning. The plan didn't work. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, somewhere in here, I think I highlighted. Here it is. Right here. It's on the second page. The paragraph starts. It says, "The most intelligent man living cannot succeed in accumulating money nor any other undertaking without plans which are practical and workable. Just keep this fact in mind and remember when your plan fails, not if your plan fails, it's when your plan fails. That temporary defeat is not permanent failure. It may only mean that your plans have not been sound." Which again, you could plan on taking that trip, but maybe you didn't check to see if there was problems on the highway.
Yeah.
Right? So your plan wasn't sound, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I like the part, and I highlighted it. When your plans fail.
It will. Challenges are what make you grow. That is the whole point of the journey, is actually the challenges. And failure, I'll do the air quotes, it just means something that's unexpected. It's something that we didn't expect. Again, we don't know how to get to the end result. So there's no way we would know what the challenges are going to be. So it's not really failure. It's just something unexpected. Yeah. So our ego says it's a failure because we have to have the checklist. The ego likes checklists. And if I check this, I win. And if I don't, I fail. It's fine. It's just a challenge. You move forward. Find a way, learn from it, move forward, find a way. You didn't fail. You found how not to do something. So you take that information, you adjust.
If you even think of just the other day at our roundtable, the Elevate roundtable, we had our excellent musician there, and I asked him why he wasn't on a world tour, because he's talented enough. Mm-hmm. He immediately said, "Well, there's a lot of planning to go into a world tour."
He's old school.
That's nothing to do with why he's not on a world tour.
He's thinking Metallica and
exactly.
stuff.
I'm I'm a big rock fan, and I can't help the fact you got like Def Leppard and Motley Crue out doing stadium tour right now.
Yeah.
And these guys are in their 60s.
Yeah.
Been at it for 40 years.
Yeah.
They didn't have it all worked out. They just thought, you know what, I love rock and roll, and I'm going to go out and make some songs, and boom, here they are selling out stadiums. I think I saw the thing the other day that the average ticket sales is 36,000 per show.
It is.
36,000 people on an average per show.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, yeah.
Right.
But you know, nowadays, like I was watching a doc on Adele, and Adele was kind of old school as well when she released her. Like they're all numbered by her age. So her first album was 19, and I think second one was 21, and then 25 or whatever. That was the age when she released. When she did 25, she wasn't into social media, and she said, you know, whatever. But her publicist said, you know, you got to do this. You got to. So when she was kind of out of it for about 3 or 4 years, and then she released her new album. She thought, oh, maybe I moved on. Nobody's, you know, I'm kind of successful now. Nobody's going to relate to me, whatever. And so she did a sneak peek of her first hit single. I forget what it is now. But when she released it on social media, it got hundreds of millions of hits. And she said that opened her eyes and says, oh my God, I would never, just with one post, all her fans said, oh, we're so excited she's coming back. And it made new fans, and people were singing her songs and all of that. She said that was it. I mean, how do you get 100 million, never mind 36,000, and you know, in a stadium, which is incredible, but hundreds of millions of people, you know, like social media just changes everything when you're talking about entertainment and releases and whatnot, right? And it's we're in the older generations. We don't. I mean, I'm getting it. I do get it, but you know,
who's in the older generation?
Except for Lee. I know Lee is.
I'm 39.
39, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably some parts of me that are 39.
Oh, listen, in my head,
I'm sure the gray hair once here and there that's 39.
That's the way kids don't understand it. Like your mind stays the same. In my head, I'm like 18. It's just your body ages.
That's right.
You know, you don't notice till you go to jog or something, and then I can't do that anymore. You know, I have to stretch. What are you talking about?
Even though this is not my favorite chapter, a lot of it too, because it's the largest chapter in the book.
Yeah.
But, it just keeps going on and on and on about, like, again, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. This is actually a really good chapter.
It really is.
It doesn't hit home for me.
It is key.
But I wrote, like, I got notes all over the place in here because I knew we were doing this. But I wrote down here, like, don't fall in love with the plan. Right? You got to fall in love with the desire, the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean the dream is wrong if the plan's work is. It just means that the plan is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's okay. And Eric was talking about how the universe or God will actually show you the path, actually will provide you with the actual plan, but you got to be open to hearing it. You got to be open to receiving it. And that's usually what the problem is. And I personally like to think more along those lines. Like, do you need a plan? Yeah, it's probably a good idea to at least have something to get you going. Like you were talking about driving to California and things like that. Like, even that, like, that goes back to, we've talked about this before, about the idea of the GPS in your car.
Mm-hmm.
And well, you need to set the destination and where you're going,
but
you don't necessarily need to know how to get there.
No.
What you need to do is pay attention to where you're being guided. Yes. So do you need a plan? I think you need a plan to start, because even that scenario right there, you still got to make a plan to get in the vehicle, turn the ignition, start it up, put it in drive, put your foot on the gas and go. That's the plan. Like, your first plan is to get to the very first stop sign and then see which direction you go, left or right. Or
the planning is, just like you said, I think the planning is your next step. That's as far as you need to plan, and then stay open exactly to what direction life's gonna take you. Like we mentioned many times, our ego leads us to believe a goal is manifest when you see it. But a goal doesn't manifest when you see it. A goal manifests when you believe it, and then you put action to it. And then it's just a matter of time. You just believe in the process. If you believe in your goal, truly believe, and I believe it isn't a want, isn't a dream, all those things mean you don't have it. It means you believe it. You're now committed to it. It is what it is. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of action for it to come to fruition. So a goal is born the second the belief is there. And then the manifestation of it is just the life cycle of that whole thing. You know what I mean? Like it's existing. It's just along that same process.
That belief is that chapter on faith, right?
Exactly. That's the key to everything, and that also keeps you going. I mean, belief without action is pointless. So, enough planning to get you to the next step. That I think that's the key, right? You
Yeah,
can try and plan it all out, and yeah, after step one, it's going to go a different direction, almost guaranteed.
He's got
absolutely.
Go ahead, Karen. You can talk about that.
I think that's the tricky part when people read Think and Grow Rich, or especially this chapter, when they read you must have a plan. Yeah, focus on the plan, and if the plan doesn't work out, so I agree what you said, Lee. The plan is, if we take the GPS again, that you get into the car and you start the engine and you just go. Many people think, okay, I have to see my plan. They go for the plan. They want to know step by step until the end what they have to do. And then something happens and the plan doesn't work out. And I think that's the tricky part, that the people understand what's meant with the having a plan. The plan is just starting the engine. Yeah. And the action, I think it's so important that everybody knows action should be or has to be the inspired action, not the action that comes from the mind, the inspired action where you go after your desire. And I think that's a big difference when people understand it, that the plan is not the way until the end, until you reach the goal. The plan is the inspired action. You get the impulses, and that's beautiful again, because if you act on the inspired action, you have the fun and you have the joy. And then all the doors open up, and then you come to the next stop shield, or to the next light, and then you know where you have to go. Right, left, go ahead.
And passion is what's going to keep you going when things don't work.
Yeah,
I think that's a big thing. I mean, today was the perfect example of it. I didn't realize that I was living this chapter today. But because last night I made a plan that I was going to leave at 6:30 this morning, and it was only an hour and a half, and it would have put me there an hour before the class started. And I again put the destination in the GPS this morning, and I watched the time just keep going. But again, things are going to happen, and I'm honest about it. Yeah, even this morning, I had to be extremely intentional in my thought process, because it can get frustrating when you're trying to get somewhere. And I was like, wait a minute, whoa, that's not who you are, man. Like, you control the things that you can't control, and you go with the flow. I mean, this is what life is all about. I actually said that to myself this morning. And I think a lot of times, again, people get so caught up in the plan. What is the plan? I have an acquaintance who's been launching this program for 10 years. And he's done everything except take the action on the program. He has so many things that are going to happen. He's going to do this, he's going to do that. But the reality of it is you have to take, like, Karin said, the inspired action. And we talk a lot, and I can hear the inspired action, but I never see the inspired action. I always hear, what's the next plan? Let's get together and plan a little bit more. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. The reality is, talking, knowing, and doing are miles apart.
Yeah, right.
And so many people know what they need to do, but they don't do what they need to do. And it's, again,
Yeah,
it's
and then they have a plan, and then it's your example is so perfect from today, from the freeway, so many accidents, the traffic. Okay, the
yeah.
plan didn't work out, and that's frustrating for so many people. They have a plan, if the plan doesn't work out, they get frustrated. Yeah, it's clear. Yeah, it's when nothing happens, if you can't get the results and you have no evidence, the people get frustrated and then they quit. But like Napoleon Hill writes in Think and Grow Rich, a winner never quits and a quitter never wins. So, and I think that's a big difference about the people. They quit because the first plan doesn't work out. Okay, they say, okay, it doesn't work out, not for me. I'm not good enough. There are the false beliefs again. They can't come up, and I'm not good enough, and I'm not smart enough, and
That's the ego. Yeah, the ego always jumps in, right?
Yep.
yeah.
Keep you holding back. That's just, again, it's his job. Like even with you, Eric. So you got, I mean, the objective thing that happened was you got stuck in traffic. So then the whole thing is, okay, well, what do you learn from that? I don't know. I don't know what you learn from that. I don't know. Google it, see if there's traffic, add traffic to your GPS, add an extra hour when you I don't know, whatever that is, there's something to learn there from it. And then that's it. You take it and away you go, right?
And I mean, if you think about it, I had a choice, right? Like I could have been like, I could have called him and said, "Hey, man, I got all of this traffic is happening. I'm not gonna be able to make it. I'm not coming. I'm not going. I'm going back home." And that's what happens to so many people. Like, like, man, I'm going back to my comfort zone. This sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't know what's to come up. And I literally ran into 4 different accidents. So the first accident added 15 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, 15 minutes, I'll still get there at 8:15. And then the second accident added another 15 minutes. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And I'm driving past, but I just called the lady up and was like, hey, listen, I planned on being there an hour early, but I'm running into traffic. I don't know, in accidents. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff happening.
I was just thinking that, I don't know what it's like in Georgia, but if you cause an accident, you're supposed to stop, not go down the road and cause another one. Or one trip, Eric.
I know, right?
Maybe you should make a plan to learn how to drive.
Well, I'm here, not in the accident, so that tells you something.
There's 4 other people on the highway. They're probably still sitting there.
I'm literally driving past them, like, and then I had an opportunity to really show gratitude. Like, man, I'm grateful that I'm not involved in these accidents, because again, that's I could be one in the number. So again, we have opportunities to let what we plan to do, let alterations to our plan stop us and make choices to go back to do what we were doing before, or we just press on. Hey, listen, it's changing. I don't know what's happening. I sincerely apologize. I'm still on my way. I'm still coming. I'm still coming, destination. I'm still coming, goal. I'll be there, I promise. But it's just not happening the way that I thought it was going to happen. But it's going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen. As long as you don't quit, it will happen for sure.
You got the passion. You're building it. You built and building a very successful business, and when you're in that mindset, you have that passion to keep doing it. You're going to go even if you get stuck on a highway.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go. You're going to get there. Like I'm the same way. There's no way I would turn around.
Yeah.
I couldn't. Even if I got there and everybody was gone, I would still feel better knowing that I tried.
I at least went. Right?
Hopefully that's what people understand it. So go ahead, Walter.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I'm sure it's similar in Atlanta, but like I think the worst rated highway in North America, at least, is the 401, which goes through Toronto. And if you're trying to get somewhere, they have a toll one that's super expensive. It's called the 407. That runs parallel but north. If I got to get somewhere and it's really important, I'm going to pay the whatever $20, $30 on that
Not
thing.
cheap either. Right?
No, it is not cheap.
I remember when I first moved out that way, he's talking about the 401 runs from basically Windsor, Ontario to Montreal, Quebec.
Yeah.
And it's actually, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Walter, but going through Toronto, it's actually the widest highway in North America. It's 16 lanes.
Yeah.
16 lanes wide, and it backs up like you literally are stopped dead
Yeah.
on a 16 lane highway. That's how busy it is.
Yeah. And you know exactly, anyway, everybody has a traffic thing, but you know exactly where it's going to pile up by the airport, by the junctions, whatever.
And then if
So
there's
you
accident-
avoid it like the plague, because it's not really a highway, it's a parking lot. It really is. It should be called a parkway because you're parked most of the time on that highway.
that other highway you're talking about, the 407, is actually a good plan.
Yeah.
Other than it really expensive. I remember the first time I took it, I got a bill. It just takes a picture of your license plate.
Yeah.
You can get like a pass or something, and it's cheaper, but I didn't have it. I don't use it enough. And I remember getting the bill. It was like $30.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
I was
12 bucks
on the highway
on.
for like 15 minutes. It cost me $30. Like, it's like, what?
Yeah, if you don't have a transponder, it's 12 bucks on and 12 bucks off.
Wow.
To do anything is 24 bucks. But everyone's averaging about 140 kilometers an hour. I don't know what that works out to in miles, but yeah, people are just zooming. But anyway, but that's what you can learn from the pros, right? You go, okay, listen, next time I'm gonna go a different road. Next time I'm gonna whatever. I don't know, whatever the you know. I guarantee you, next time, Eric, you'll probably think twice or think about the
Oh, you know, the crazy thing is it detoured me 3 times. It took me off the route 3 times. So honestly, if I didn't detour, it would have taken me 3.5 hours to get there.
Holy.
Which I would have been an hour late for class. So you know, it's like I showed up one time. I literally showed up at 8:59, and started teaching at 9 o'clock. And it was, you know, it worked out. It was the other young lady was up here talking when I first got there. So it worked out exactly how it was supposed to work out. And even with, you know, with me with the plan not working, it still worked out and I still picked up a new client, you know. So again, but what if I didn't go? I would have never met the individuals in that class.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't have been right. Excuse me for 1 second, you all. I have to step away for just a second.
No problem.
I heard it. Where's the knocking coming from? As Eric's gone.
Yeah, and that's
Go ahead.
I think that's the point. When you have your destination always in mind, then you go in the direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and don't be fixed always on the next step. And we all don't know what happens around the corner, behind the next door, and the next hour, the next minute. But to keep the direction is the most important thing.
Yeah, and you know, we talk about the different law. Everybody knows law of attraction, of course, law of vibration. I think one of the most important ones is one of the law of polarity. Everything is relative, right? So the second you're everything's in balance in the universe, right? In exact perfect balance, everything's in rhythm. So for you to, if you set your new goal, let's say it's a salary or net income or whatever it is, if you're going to set the new relative high, you know, much bigger, the relative low needs to adjust as well. So that's what you need to keep in mind, is there are going to be challenges, right? When you achieve that new goal, there's different aspects to the goal. There's an emotional aspect. There's a you know, a financial aspect. There's a mental aspect, and you're going to have to, for it to have to be given life. You know, there's always two polarities to any new goal, right? There's a higher end and a lower end. When you're stretching yourself one way, you're gonna may need to stretch yourself the other way. You need to hit some new lows before you hit some new highs. That's just the way the universe is. It's always in perfect balance. So just expect it. There's gonna be challenges, and your whole point is to get through them, learn from them. Just like I think it was Eric said, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. You just need to assess how, you know, what do you learn from it? How do I grow from this? What's another approach I need to take from this, right? So expect it.
You know, we're with coming back to that, we're basically talking about organized planning. Is I don't think we're trying to tell anybody to not make plans. You know, I think that what Napoleon Hill gets into a lot of information in here, a lot of great stuff. Like, you know, but anyways, I think it's important that you do have to have some kind of a plan.
To the next. Yeah.
But it's also, you know, we already said, you know, don't fall in love with the plan. Fall in love with the dream, the destination.
Yeah.
Because that plan is probably going to change. It may be a good plan when you started, but probably isn't going to be a good plan down the road. You know, you're going to change it. And that's the key, is you have to be willing to make changes.
Yeah.
Some of the things in here that I think that are worth looking at, like he's got a lot of great stuff in here. Too much for us to actually be able to talk about it in an hour, but it's worth pointing out. And I do highly recommend people take the time to read this and actually challenge yourself, because he asks a lot of questions and points a lot of things out. Like, you know, there's you know, the 30 major causes of failure. How many of these are holding you back? Like, there's literally 30 of them here, and he explains each one of them. So it's a good opportunity that, you know, to challenge yourself and look at each one of them and really kind of evaluate whether or not it, you know, relates to you. So there's a lot of great stuff. And one that I only really highlighted one that I thought was something that was important was, you know, insufficient education. You know, people plan to go to university. Like, you know, we've mentioned before, like Richard Branson, he quit school when he was 16, and he's a billionaire. He's one of the richest men in the world. So it isn't about that. And Napoleon Hill says, it's number 4 in that section on the 30 major causes. This is a handicap which may be overcome by comparative ease. Experience has proven that the best educated people are often those who are known as self-made or self-educated. It takes more than a college degree to make one a person of education. Any person who is educated is one who has learned to get whatever he wants in life without violating the rights of others. Education consists not so much of knowledge, but of knowledge effectively and persistently applied. And that's the thing too, it's, you know, like, you get people that, I'm going to go to college and get a degree in this. But what if that's not what you end up wanting to do? That's okay.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, you don't have to be educated in anything. Like, there's a whole section in here on finding specialized knowledge. You can go get the specialized knowledge, or in a lot of cases, these multi-millionaire, billionaire people, they simply hire somebody with that specialized knowledge. Right? So these are things that I think that are really important to understand. Like, don't plan that. You can start with a plan, but when the plan fails,
Yeah,
you need another plan, right?
and I think education doesn't necessarily mean formal education. Education can be some of those billionaires, you know, write books. Some of those billionaires have courses that teach you specialized knowledge on this or that or whatever. Or, you know, find a mentor, someone you admire that can walk you through it. And if, you know, if they are, you know, anyone that has succeeded on in any level, and at least is self-aware, is open. When you see someone come to you that has an amazing attitude, is really willing, you know, to take that next step, you just gladly want to help them. You know, it's not like it's a chore or anything. It's so refreshing to see someone truly ready to do whatever it takes to, you know, to start succeeding and releasing potential and all that. People get excited, so don't be afraid to approach somebody who's successful. You'd be surprised how eager they are. Just ask, you know, say, hey, I want to take you out to lunch. Just want to pick your brain. You know, get some advice, whatever.
Yeah.
But
what do most of the people do?
Go ahead.
Pardon me?
I was just going to say, you were telling us that you like to cook, and Eric and I were getting inspired to go to Austria to have dinner. Now, we have no idea how to get there. There's no plan yet, but hey,
Start driving, Lee. Turn those.
Yes, but you have a goal.
It's a long drive.
It's true.
It's a long drive, yeah. But what do most of the people do when the plan doesn't work out? They are so hard on themselves. You know, and that's what most of the people do. They just this, and yeah, this is the lack of selfishness, self-confidence, and lack of knowing of their own worthiness. And I think that's why most of the people go back in the comfort zone, because going forward and always forward, moving on and make changes. We know how important it is. Every change is leaving, going out of the comfort zone. But what happens then? You go out of the comfort zone. People go through the resistance wall, and then they are in a place and where they want to be. It's always like this. But if you stay on this place for a special time, then it's gonna be your comfort zone again, and that's what's coming up. And then you feel comfortable when you have the success. But what's the next? And what's the next? So I think that's so important to have the big goal and the big picture, because every step is creating a new comfort zone.
Yeah, it's like really, like a broken record, but always remember that inner voice, like Eric said, like every one of us said, you're going to hear that inner voice. Just remember what it is. You are not that inner voice. The inner voice is to keep you safe. The inner voice is to assess where you're at based on your paradigm. If it doesn't match, something's wrong in its mind, right? That's its system. It's our system to help cope and keep us safe. It's gonna beat you up. That's his job. It's his job is to say, whoa, you thought you were gonna be, have this new, be this new amazing thing. You're not. What are you, crazy? And then that's its job. But just remember that input is input. You have the choice to take that or to put it aside, or just realize for what it is. It's trying to keep you safe. That's all it is. Great. Yeah.
A good plan might be to always try to be outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Growth.
You're gonna win.
Yeah, that's great.
Comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's right.
Growth is on the other side of that. Yeah, growth is on the other side of comfort for sure.
It is. And then, and everything that you want is right on the other side of fear. Like there's, again, I think about another friend of mine, has had so many opportunities. I mean, so many opportunities. And I think it was Karin that alluded to this earlier. This is why it's so important for you to make sure you're talking and spending your time with the right people, because he had opportunities to, start businesses that were, one in particular was actually 30 years prior to, he actually had an opportunity to open a Chick-fil-A in a town that did not have a Chick-fil-A. And he ran it past people who were stuck on being stuck. And they were like, no, don't do that. And it took 30 years for a Chick-fil-A to come to that town. And this town, when I tell you cannot get in that Chick-fil-A ever. But he missed the opportunity because, again, he wasn't around the right people. And he spent so much time around the wrong people that he always shares his plan with those people because of his own internal fear, and listening to that voice, as as Walter said, he keeps listening. Yeah, either way. But he keeps listening. He keeps taking, and now his comfort zone is to take his ideas to those individuals versus people he knows is going to encourage him to go do different. Because, he and I both were in the same boat 10, 15 years ago, but obviously, I'm rowing in a different direction now. And he will not ask me ideas. We really don't spend much time together now, simply because if he gives me an idea, I'm immediately like, okay, what's the first step we're going to take? Let's do this, let's do that. Da, 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 da. He's like, oh, wait, I just want to run it by you. I actually want to do nothing.
Yeah, that's a great point. Is everybody has advice. Every single person gives advice. The value of that advice is how successful that person is in that particular area, right? And you know, it really depends on the area. If you're going to ask financial advice to someone who's on the street and homeless and you know whatever, listen, you can learn from everybody for sure. But I'm just saying, you know, don't get the relationship advice from somebody who's divorced and has been you know had 6 marriages or whatever. Like go to the person that excels in that area that you're trying to become. Like that's almost like a value or whatever. So, and I guarantee you, like if you go to someone that's never had a business and ask them, "Hey, I want to run this business," they're of course going to be controlled by their ego and going to say, "What are you crazy? What if you lose your job? How are you going to pay your rent? What about your kids?" And whatever, whatever, whatever. You go to somebody that has 15 Chick-fil-A's and you tell them, "Hey, I want to open a Chick-fil-A," they're gonna say, "Fantastic! Here's what you got to do. Blah, blah, blah. You can do it." Da, 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 da. It's a whole different thing, right? But everybody, again, until you start down that journey, you start to realize that very quickly.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you'll take everyone's advice equally. Everyone has the same value, you know, just because, you know, you would talk to your dad and he gives you some type of advice. He's my dad, he must be right. No, not necessarily, unless your dad is excelling at whatever advice you're asking him for, you know.
I think I'm gonna plan to have Chick-fil-A now for dinner.
Did
Fits
you-
in my
Pretty
cooking
good,
style. Right, they have drive-throughs, right?
isn't that the one with that chicken, the chicken sandwich or something that went?
Yeah, yeah,
It's huge in the United. We have them in Canada now, but
Yeah, we do.
huge. It's the number one chain in the United States,
and
and they're
it's
closed. And they're closed on Sundays.
totally operate like it's one family that owns the whole freaking thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. I didn't know that. That was a big.
It's interesting too, like it's fascinating how people get caught up in politics. It's also because these people are Christians that there's a whole element out there that actually boycott Chick-fil-A because they have Christian values and not open on Sundays.
Mm-mm.
They close on Sundays. And it's still the number one place in the United States.
Yes, it is.
And they're closed on Sundays. Like you think about that, how many other chains are there out there that would close? Like especially a food place, like saying McDonald's is going to close on Sunday, right? But again, that's they're following their plan, their desire, their goals. Like I would imagine that if you were to say I'm going to open up a restaurant and I'm not going to be open on Sundays, you get people telling you that's a lousy plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're not following necessarily. I'm sure they do follow a plan because they wouldn't be successful, but they're following their passion. They're following what they believe to be true. And whether you agree with it or not, doesn't make any difference. They're winning.
Yeah.
And that's
Big
true.
time.
Right?
Big time.
Anybody.
And even those people that the naysayers, and you will get naysayers, 100%. People will get fixated on the old you, and the old you needs to basically die for the new you to be born or whatever. They're still stuck, they're mourning the old you. They like the old, you. Maybe back then you were like you were saying, Lee, a blue collar perspective, working man's perspective or whatever. When you start owning a business stuff, that's very foreign to someone that works 9 to 5, and they want to hang on to the old Lee. Lee, you would have been right with me when what are you crazy or whatever. And they're trying to help us. At the end of the day, it's their way of helping. They're trying to keep you safe. Their ego is getting involved, and they're in their way they're helping you, or think they're trying to keep you safe.
I just thought of a funny story when like I've mentioned before that I went from being a bus driver into real estate. And when I mentioned it to the bus drivers, they were all thought I was nuts. Like, what do you live in? Like, it's there's a pension, there's benefits, you got your dental, all this. Now, why would you want to give all this up and go there?
Right.
And then the funny thing is when I first got into real estate, the very first company that I went to work at the very first meeting I was at, the broker, the manager at the time, introduced me and said that I gave up this job at the bus company and I came to real estate. And there's many real estate agents going, "Well, you gave up such a secure job, all the benefits and everything." Like, you can't win. Like the bus drivers thought I was nuts. The real estate people thought I was nuts for leaving. Like it's so obviously, you got to follow your dream, and be careful who you talk to, because again, when I got into real estate, there were a lot of people that were perfect to talk to.
Yeah.
But it was amazing to me that there's people actually thinking I was nuts.
Yeah.
For giving up a job driving a bus to go into real estate.
Well, I'll tell you my story. When I always had a dream to have my own software company, and I was always afraid, of the security. Oh, the job security. There is no job security. You can get laid off. It's just the same as, it's actually a benefit to have your own company because it's coming. When you're working with somebody else, they'll let you know the Monday, the Black Monday or whatever. You won't even know it's coming. At least you have an idea it's coming. But anyway, I had a really good job. It was, a six-figure income, and I managed, a team of 13 project managers and a big group of developers, and I was really, growing in this company. And I had I started my software company with a couple others, and it was a side gig, just because of my connections and whatever. We had some consulting work, and we would do some work. And back then, it was doing some custom development and that kind of thing. And it was Hitachi was our first customer. So we were doing stuff on the side, and it was taking up more and more of my time. And they said, "Hey, we want to give you this giant project. We'll give you full-time hours for 6 months, but there's none of this part-time. You either gotta basically SHIT or get off the pot, And I was terrified because I had this great job, and oh my God, what's going to do? Trust me, every family member said, "Are you insane? That's only 6 months. What do you?" But I said, "Look, this is a start. I've always wanted to do this. This is my company. I can run it the way I want, whatever." And I just took that leap of faith. And everybody thought I was crazy, whatever. Well, I went back. I still kept in touch with the guys. Well, within 6 months, they had a complete overhaul. My boss was let go. All of my peers, all of the VPs were laid off. They did a complete house cleaning. And I for sure would have been stuck in that whole thing. And everybody thought I was this, what are you, an oracle? How the heck did you know this was going to happen? I said, I didn't. I just took a leap of faith, did what I did. And that 6 months led to the year and 2 years, and we got more customers and whatever. I couldn't see further than 6 months when I first started. I just had the faith,
6
and
months
it's amazing.
in a lot of cases, right?
It's every case. You talk to anyone, you see these giant successes. All they talk about is the success, of course. But if you, again, take them out to lunch or read an autobiography or whatever, you'll see every single person has challenges. Every single successful business person has challenges. Every single one. You have to go through.
Something in this chapter that I do think is important, and I don't know what page would be on whatever you're reading, but on mine it's 149. But it's take an inventory of yourself. There's 28 questions, and I think it's really important to actually do this. Sit down and take inventory. Because take the time to answer the questions. Like again, there's 28 of them. I'm not going to go through them all. It's important to understand that success takes time. Like it's when you say how long is it going to take? Well, it could take 6 months. It could take a year. You got to want it, and you got to be willing to change the plans, because whatever you're thinking today isn't going to be the same thing 6 months from now. Like, we're building the Elevate network. It's growing all the time. Do we know exactly how long it's going to take? Well, to be honest with you, I think it's going to take the rest of my life, because I don't plan on stopping. Like, I have big ideas of where I like to see it go. I think you guys do too. And, so for us to sit back and say, I'm going to have a plan to get to this point or to here, like, I have no idea. We're doing something that hasn't even actually been done before. And so to be able to say what the plan is, we can say what the plan is for the next week. We can plan to be on this call next Thursday. We can be, Carr and I can be planning on being on the call on Tuesday, and we've got our Elevate network on Wednesdays. So we can plan that. But then if you think about it, we don't even plan what we're going to talk about. Like even this, like I got on the call thinking I don't even like this chapter. I'm thinking like, I love Think and Grow Rich. Now, when I say I don't like the chapters, because it just doesn't fit my personality. That doesn't mean it's not a good chapter, because you know what, you look at it, it's an excellent chapter. Like I just mentioned, these 28 questions, when you take inventory of yourself, like it's a self-analysis questionnaire. It's excellent.
Mhm.
Am I going to sit down and do it today? No, I'm not planning on that right now.
I have a different plan.
You know, there's a different plan for this. It does not include these 28 questions. That does not mean that someone else shouldn't, right? Because you know, we're all different. We all have different personalities, and you know, and be honest with you, I have done this in the past. I'm just not interested in doing it again. Today, at least. You know, maybe I will. Maybe now that I'm talking about it, maybe I will. Like it's not like huge, like 28 questions. It's 2 pages.
Yeah.
Like, they're only like 2 or 3 lines. It's not like there's massive stuff you got to read. So
Yeah.
again, it's about taking inventory of yourself, and I think it's really quite important. So
I think the thing that Walter said is it really touched me when he was like, you know, what somebody said that I'm not for sure who it was, but somebody's talking about, you know, how success takes time, and you know, and it's different for everybody. I think that's another thing that has happened to us, especially the way societal norms are now. We're a right now society. We have a microwave society, and everybody wants everything to happen like right now. Plus, with the social media culture, you know, it's so easy to compare your journey to everybody else because we have access to what everybody else is doing, or supposedly is doing. And, you know, you hear of these overnight success stories, and you're like, oh my gosh, why am I not? We were talking yesterday at the Elevate Roundtable, and there's, you know, we had a couple of people who started on TikTok a few months ago, and one guy has 5,000 followers already, and I think he was talking about another young lady who has 20,000 followers, all in under 6-8 months. And you know, it would be so easy for us to say, oh, well, my plan is to, you know, get on TikTok and get all of these followers and everything else. But again, my plan and my journey different from theirs. And so comparing myself to who I am right now to who they are right now it's not fair. It's not fair to myself, and it's not fair to beat myself up, you know, as Karin said. But so many people do. So many people will spend so much time beating themselves up because they're not meeting the same standards that they're setting for themselves based on other people's journey. Your journey is your journey. It's you know, it's yours. And like Lee was talking about with the 28 questions and doing a self-evaluation, that's vitally important for us to take inventory of who we are and where we are in this moment. But that's not to say you're going to stay in this moment. That's the big thing about it. Like, you know, again, when you talk about the planning piece, yeah, you have your goals, yeah, you have your dreams. But, you know, I planned on getting there an hour early this morning. Did I? No. Was it? But here's the beautiful thing about it. You know, it was an opportunity for me to grow, because again, I could have got frustrated. I could have been angry. I could have, you know, I could have allowed it to tear my attitude up and show up for the class and give off horrible energy. And then I don't have an opportunity to really grow with individuals and learn with individuals. Or I could say, take the inventory of myself. Again, like I said, you know, I was starting to get frustrated because somebody cut me off in traffic. I'm like, this beep, 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 beep. And I was, wait a minute, what am I doing? Like, I can't control, you know, I'm getting angry for what reason? I can't control this. Like, it happens. Called the lady, change the plans. I'm not gonna be there an hour early. I'll be there, I'll get there when I get there, but I'm coming. And I showed up, and I, you know, even after I showed up, I had parked at a place, and the doctor's office was like, hey man, you gotta move your car. Like, well, okay. Hey, I'm like, hey, it's just, hey, it's a day of challenges, y'all. But this is what we do. We adapt.
I'm kind of curious, you being 6'9", if you just get out of the car, did they say no problem? You can park there.
No, the car was already parked.
Wherever you want.
I was already teaching. They were like, whoever car this is, they gotta move it. Oh, Sorry.
That-
But then when I walked out, she was like, you can just kind of back it up a little bit. No, ma'am, I'll move it for you.
So, Karen, in German, what does service mean? S-E-R-V-U-S, service.
Servus. This is hi. This is
Okay. Robert
yeah.
says hi. Robert says hi.
Robert.
Robert Cloderry.
Okay. Hi.
That brings up
Hi. She says hi, Robert. So,
Hi,
thanks
Robert.
for saying hi to Karen. So,
the reason that
Yeah,
that
but I can.
Yeah, go
Excuse
ahead.
me.
Go ahead, Karen.
That's to have to plan and not always have it in. I can tell you about the Elevator Network. It was about 2 years ago when I said, when we had these tough times, I had 2.5 years already, and I said, I want to have something. I want to have a group, a mastermind group, where I can share all this information. I want to have this online business. I want to have the possibility to bring out all the informations on the internet, not only to the people one-on-one. You know, when I work with people, they want to work with me with the horses, they have to come to me. And that was not possible 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And that's what that was exactly my intention and my goal setting, to say, okay, I'm gonna move all this to the internet. I didn't know how it worked out or could work out. I don't know how I could do this. It was almost impossible for me. But I think it was 1 year later I met you, Lee. And now we are sitting here.
how we're doing it.
Yeah, and
That's
we are
the way the
doing
universe
exactly
works, too, isn't
that.
it?
Yeah, and that's what you said, Walter. I love this statement: the old self has to die, that the new self can show up. I love this statement because it's so true. Because if you have always the same attitude and the same stories and the same repetitions and the same beliefs, you can't get the new self, the new person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I love it. That's what I want to tell you. I love it, and
We
I
all
use
love
it
it.
a lot of.
Everybody loves it.
Yes, we do.
I was just going to say that the important, the one thing we also lose sometimes track of, we always focus on the goals, which is fantastic. What we also need to focus on is our values. Well, values aren't something that you achieve, and it's not a material thing. It's a part of who you are. But it's important to set up those values of who you are as, you know, the most important relationship, who you are as a father, who you are as a spouse, as a grandson, as a son, you know, who you are from a financial perspective, who you are, you know, all those values, anything that you see and admire in someone else, in the various aspects, the important aspects of your life. It's almost more important to set those up, because then you can set your goals based on those values. You want to make sure that you're setting goals that align with your values at the same time. And going through that list that Lee mentioned kind of starts getting you thinking along that. How am I as a positive thinker? How am I as a whatever? Like what are the most important aspects of you as a person? Set that as a goal as well, and then assess that every time there's a situation. Is that who I am now? This is who I've chosen to be. This is who I, you know, does it mesh to who I am at this moment?
Absolutely.
I think an important thing that I had to learn, great point, Walter, is that like when I was, we all look for mentors. And so when I was looking for a mentor, I was looking for a mentor, a single mentor that can provide all of that for me, until I ran into a mentor who says, that's not fair to me, nor is it fair to you. I'm like, what do you mean? it's like, you have a spiritual side, you have a business side, you have so many different areas that you want to work on yourself. How can you expect one person to be the end all be all for that? And so, I stopped looking for a mentor, a one singular mentor, and start looking for mentors. And some of those mentors come in different forms. Some of those come in the form of ebooks. Some of those, a lot of times we see it as, oh my gosh, just like this has to be a person that I can physically, tangibly touch. That's not always the case. I get on the Elevate Network every single day, and all three of you all have become a mentor for me. I listen to things that you all provide. There's so many different people that mentor and pour into me, to make me make a better me, a better version of me. So, and again, you must die to the old person, but we also must remember that a new person is evolving every day. So every day you die to the old person,
A great.
I don't think you want to become a better person, but what's happening, I think this is a specialized knowledge.
Mhm.
What we talked 2 weeks ago. This is exactly the information we need at this time right now. And what happens? I listen to Elevate Network, to all your programs too, because you are all my mentors too. But what happens? We keep the vibration high.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
And that's the plan. My big plan, to keep vibration high.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's different areas, real wealth, like Lee likes to mention, right? Isn't even financial. It's funny because financial doesn't even play into it. I mean, of course, it's great to have money. I'd rather be happy and ecstatic and rich than happy and ecstatic and poor, but it's separate. But you do have mentors around, just the mental capacity. You could have somebody that excels in one area and doesn't excel in others, and that's okay. There's some personal trainers that are absolutely fantastic. They have, physically they are top notch. So you can learn physical things from them. They can be your physical mentor. Maybe others for nutrition, someone else for financial, for investing. There's investor, mentors. They themselves may be a train wreck in their emotional side. They may have 5 different wives, and they're not great in that area. But in that one area, yeah, I'm going to mentor them on the financial and on the relationship wise. There's usually a grandmother, an uncle, or whatever that's been together for 50 years and they still love each other and all of that. So you can mentor them on your relationship. So fantastic point that you brought up, Eric, and I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot to even speak about that. But you're
yeah. I mean, it's well, this is why we're hot. Iron sharpens iron, right? And it's that again, that's the importance of being around the right people, because we're able to off each other's thoughts, and contribute, and that's such a beautiful thing when you're around a group of people who you feel like you can contribute to them, but they're also contributing to you, your own growth, man. You're in the right area. You're in the right room for sure.
Absolutely. I agree. 100%.
As we're kind of wrapping up organized planning here, actually, when Walter mentioned real wealth, it was funny because before you came on the call, Walter, I had mentioned to Carr and then Eric that you and I used to do an event called Real Wealth Mastermind.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And, we had a plan to start it, a plan to find the right facility. We had a plan to get guest speakers to come in, but we really had no idea what we were doing.
No, it was great. It was great. It was
every time we did it, there was more people. Like there was actually lineups at points, they were getting started. Yeah. And it was just sitting around thinking, okay, why don't we do this and why don't we do that? And again, none of us knew what we were doing. We had a really good friend. Unfortunately, we've lost him, Donish, who he used to come all the way from Toronto, get on the GO train, because I used to go pick him up. Now, he was blind, and he would come all the way from downtown Toronto on the train by himself, and he would be the keynote speaker. Like he'd be the guy that would, set everything up. And it was fantastic. So, here's a guy, if you think about it, he's originally from Pakistan.
Pakistan, yeah.
But he was an albino.
Yeah.
But he was as white as you could possibly be. His hair was white, his eyelashes, everything was white, and he
Yeah.
was blind. So he had pink eyes. He's blind and whiter than anybody that's ever white. Like he's like was really white.
Yeah.
And yet he would take the time to get on the train. And it was probably a good hour, wouldn't it be, Walter, to go from where he was?
At least, yeah.
A
Yeah.
good hour on the train. And he's
He-
doing all this by himself, and then he would come and he's in a great mood. He was always energetic and he was leading the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, talk about an inspiration. Here's a guy that was, born in Pakistan, came young, was an albino. He was legally blind. I think he could see maybe an inch in front of him or whatever.
Like this.
An amazing energy. And I mean, if you look at the stuff that he did, he wrote a book. He did stand up. He was afraid to grow up and talk in front of people, but he put it on himself to do stand up. He wrote and I think directed a movie or something. Did poetry. Like the guy was just incredible. I was Anyway, we were so sad when
We lost him a few years back. But,
but
he was
what an
really
inspiration.
Inspirational type of a guy because he had a plan, not necessarily a plan, but he had a decision or desire, and he always found the plan to make it happen.
Everything that made him uncomfortable, he would just conquer it. It was amazing, actually.
Yeah. I remember one time too, I went to pick him up at his house and he was somewhere and he was late. And again, keep in mind, like he could see about that far. Like not even a foot in front of him. That's as far as he could see, right?
Yeah.
I was standing in front of his house because I knew he wasn't there because I think he sent me a text or something like that, which I don't know how he did that either because he couldn't see it, but he did. But anyways, he's running down the street. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, do I need to be worried? I'm gonna have to catch him in case he hits something and he falls. But no, he'd done that so many times. He'd been up and down that street so many times that he knew where everything was. And he was running like anybody else would run down the street.
Yeah.
And yet he couldn't even see his feet. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, his plan was to just live a normal life. And he did it.
He did an extraordinary life. I mean, he did more than most, an average person for sure. I mean, he just done more than I did.
And a lot more courage than most people.
Yeah, for sure.
And he grew up in an environment like that wasn't welcoming.
Yeah.
He is, even though he's an albino, number one, right off the bat, he got bullied all the time in school. Back even in Pakistan, he got bullied. Then he come to Canada and they bullied him. He's from Pakistan. His whole family's from Pakistan. So he even got, there's issues with, back with September 11th, people would consider him to be as though he's from, he's one of the Taliban or something, which obviously he's not.
Right.
But, it was amazing the things that he had to deal with. And yet, he just kept doing it. And he always found the plan to make it work.
Yeah.
And that goes back to burning desire, right? He had a burning desire. He didn't want to be that person that was handicapped. And, that gave me a lot of, pause when I started thinking about, I want to complain about something. You got nothing to complain about. The only thing I can complain about today is I don't know where Chick-fil-A is. I know it's here. I know it because they opened one. I know it's not far, but I don't know exactly where it is. GPS, right? So
there you go.
I have a destination.
There it is.
We're going to wrap up because we're over here. And next week, this is a chapter I can get behind. Again, the organized planning is a fantastic chapter, and I highly recommend people reading it, especially the inventory part. But the next week is decision. It's the mastery of procrastination. Big part of everything, right? The 7th step to riches.
Yeah.
So this is a good chapter, and hopefully everybody will be joining us next week, same time on Thursday. And we've got Karen and I do abundance tuning on Tuesdays, and I highly recommend people to come and join us on the Elevate Roundtable. Now, you do have to sign up for it. It's not live; it's a private group, and everybody is on the call. So it keeps getting bigger. Like we've only done it twice, and every time, like last time we just did it, was bigger than the time before. And So I'm getting a little worried about, I'm not sure how to handle all these people on.
It handles it no problem. Yeah.
Good. Okay. See, we've got somebody with specialized knowledge that knows how to do that. Even Eric, you know how to do that too, right?
Somewhat.
We'll figure it out. So
Yeah, we just
I
have to get it. We'll have to get it.
desire to join the round table.
So thanks for everybody who has joined us here live, and there's quite a few people. So thank you, and thank you everyone. And I get a kick out of in German, and they put the two dots above an O, like what do they call them, Ungrats or something, and the wording when you're like the person that said hello to Karin has that in his name. You have an O in the word, and there's these two dots above it.
An Ö. This is an Ö wie Österreich.
Ah, okay. I don't know how to say that, but it was funny because it made me think of.
I want to hear Lee say that.
I mentioned Motley Crue a while back, and they've got that in their name, and it means absolutely nothing. It just the guy that came up with the name with Nikki Sixx, he just liked the look of it. So their logo has that, and it means nothing. And I guess it was interesting too. I saw a while back that they did a concert in Germany, probably Berlin or something like that, and people were chanting Motley Crue, but they were saying Motley Crue, Motley.
Yeah, there you go.
Because that changes the sound of the O, right?
Right.
So they were actually saying the name wrong because they were saying it the way it's spelled, right? Like so. But anyways, somebody with a plan. He obviously had no idea what he was doing, but he got where he wanted to go. It goes back to, it could have failed. I think probably some people might say it did, but I don't. Anyways, thanks for joining us. Great to see everybody. Anybody got any final last minute things they want to say before we go?
No.
That's it.
Put
Okay.
a plan, do it. Do a plan. Make a plan and do it. There you go.
That's it.
Off to Chick-fil-A.
See everyone.
See you later.
See you next week. Bye.